Now it's time to learn how to graph the other types of equations we'll deal with this year. We start off by talking about slope-intercept, which you've looked at before. That's y equals mx plus b. But now we're going to look at two new ones. We're going to look at point slope, and we're going to look at standard form of a linear function. We'll start by looking at the standard form of a linear function. The formula for that is ax plus by equals c. An equation in this form would probably look like this. 2x minus 5y equals 10. I'd say there's nothing special about standard form, but there is. That is the standard form of a linear function. But in mathematical terms and how we work with it, you're going to find out there's really not a whole lot special about it. We have to do things to it to make it work for us. Now when we look at this, 2x minus 5y equals 10. Like I said, we can't get any information out of it. We have to just kind of plug in. So like you could plug in a 0 for x. And if you do that, you can kind of look at that and go, well, if I'm trying to solve for y, I can see that y is negative 2. And this one's lucky enough. You can plug in a number for y. You can plug in 0 for y, and maybe you could go, well, if 0 is y, then I have 2x equals 10, so x equals 5. So you can find some points, but numbers have to match up real well. So what you really have to do is go ahead and solve this for y. That's why we talked about solving for y. And when you do that, you end up with negative 5y equals negative 2x plus 10. And then you divide by negative 5 and get y equals 2/5 x minus 2. And from there, it's a lot easier to find points. You can plug in, as we said, 5. We put 5 in there. 2 times 5 is 10. Divided by 5 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. We can try negative 5. And when you put negative 5 in, you get negative 4. If you try 10, that'll give you 20 divided by 5, which is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. And you can kind of start seeing a pattern here. So that means when you put in negative 10, you're going to get negative 6. So at least now you have some points that you can graph. You have 0, negative 2. You have 5, 0. You have 10, 2. And negative 5, negative 4. And negative 10, negative 6. Which together will make the nice linear function. But just in standard form alone, you can't find anything. You have to change it into something that you can work with. The next equation we'll talk about is point slope form. Now, math people, we're not real creative. We call things after what they involve. So the point slope will have a point and a slope in it. And you can see that m is always a slope, so that's pretty obvious. But you should see an ordered pair here, x sub 1 and y sub 1. In fact, you probably can see a very nice comparison to the slope formula that you see there on the right. X sub 1 and y sub 1 is just an ordered pair. It's 1 point. The x and the y themselves are needed for the equation. Now the important thing to recognize here, and you'll need this later on, is if you look closely, that actually says negative x sub 1 and that actually says negative y sub 1. Well, in an ordered pair, we're not making them negative. Those are positive. So when you look at it, and you'll see this in the next screen when we do this, when you take an ordered pair out of this equation, you actually take the opposite of what you see. But we'll look at that in detail in just a minute. So let's look at an example of the point slope form. So I have here y minus 3 equals 2 times x plus 4. Now, again, looking closely at this and looking at what we've done here, we have a slope of 2. That's quite obvious. We also have an ordered pair. Now notice I'm not circling the operation there. The ordered pair is the opposite of what we see here. So the ordered pair is negative 4 for the x, because that's the x, and for the y, it is positive 3. So what that tells us is that this equation, if we were to solve it and graph it, would have a slope of 2 and go through the point negative 4, positive 3. Now we can go ahead and simplify this equation and find other points as well. So we have y minus 3 equals 2 times x plus 4. If we were to simplify that, we would distribute, making this 2x plus 8. We would then add the 3, making this y equals 2x plus 11. From there, we can plug in numbers. So we already know that one of the ordered pairs is negative 4, 3. We can plug in 0 for x, and we know that another one is 11. We can plug in any variety of numbers, and we plug in 2 for x, and now we know it's 13. We can plug in negative 2, and we get negative 2 times 2 is negative 4, plus 11 is negative 7. So we have several points we can choose from. We probably need to keep going backwards. Negative 6 would give us positive 1. So now we can graph a few points, negative 6, 1, negative 2, 7, 0, 11's up here. So we have enough points, we can go ahead and start connecting them, making our line, so we know what our line looks like. So now let's put everything together. We've learned 3 different types of equations now. We start off with slope-intercept, and slope-intercept is pretty obvious. It gives you the slope and the intercept. There's no change to make, so we're just going to write here under where it says after change. It's the same as before the change. We're just going to write, we know the slope, and we can find that very easily. We know the y-intercept. Now, something you need to remember about the y-intercept is the y-intercept is a point. So you could say you can find the slope and a point. Now, it's a very specific point, but it's still the slope and a point. And there's no change to make to it. We can leave it just like that, just look at it, pull things out. Next, we can look at the standard form. Now, before making any changes, we can actually get very little out of it. We can get nothing. You can look at it, you can get an idea, you can plug numbers in, but you can't really get anything just by looking at it. But after you change it, you can see both the slope, which is negative a over b, and you can see the y-intercept, which is c over b. So what that allows you to do is look at something like 3x plus 8y equals 24, and you can tell that the slope, if this is a, b, and c, you can tell the slope is going to be negative 3 over 8, and that the y-intercept is going to be 24 over 8, so 3. So you can see a lot of information just by breaking that down a little bit. And finally, we have point slope. Before the change, we can find a slope, obviously, and we can find a point, and the point would being the x sub 1 and y sub 1. So from that right there, we can get a lot of information. So then if we change it, we're actually going to change it into y equals mx plus b, therefore finding the slope and the y-intercept, yet another point. So from this equation, this is a very useful equation because you can get the slope, and you really, with a little bit of work, can get 2 ordered pairs out of it. And 2 ordered pairs is sometimes enough to make your graph. So now, go give these 3 a try. Change them, get information directly from it, whatever you have to do. No calculators. Try to use your mind and create at least 4 more ordered pairs. We will check these first thing when we get to class. Make sure you have some questions, and we'll see you then.